Story 1. This is the one story that still makes me question everything I thought I knew about reality and what is possible. My then-girlfriend Sarah, who is now my wife, was completely obsessed with urban exploration and the paranormal. I didn't believe in ghosts, but I was head over heels in love with her, so I went along with her crazy adventures. We explored dozens of abandoned buildings together over the years, but only one left both of us truly shaken to our core. It was an extremely dark, cloudy night with no moon and no stars. The kind of night where the darkness feels heavy and alive. Sarah had found an old, rotting Victorian house standing completely isolated on a forgotten back road in upstate New York. The place looked dangerous. It was tilting slightly with broken windows and peeling paint. It seemed like it could collapse at any moment. I had to kick the front door multiple times before it finally burst open with a loud crack. The living room was a nightmare. Half the floor was missing, revealing a dark, jagged hole that dropped straight into the collapsed basement. I immediately started begging Sarah to leave. "This place is going to kill us," I said repeatedly. She just smiled and said her usual line, "Just give me one more minute, babe, please?" While she excitedly searched through piles of old junk downstairs, I stayed close to the front door, testing every floorboard before stepping on it. My heart was pounding the entire time. Eventually, curiosity overpowered my fear, and I carefully made my way upstairs. Each step on the old staircase felt like it might give way and send me crashing down. The first bedroom I entered was incredibly depressing. A perfectly made bed still sat there, with a folded bathrobe at the foot, as if the owner had just stepped out for a moment years ago. In the corner, I found a small crawl space. Inside were dozens of old, unopened boxes of baby diapers and jars of baby food, all covered in thick dust and thick spider webs. The smell was horrible, a mix of mold, rot, and decay that made me gag. That's when I first heard the creaking. It was slow, rhythmic, and deliberate. I crawled deeper and discovered a narrow passage leading to the other side of the house. The sound was clearly coming from the second bedroom. I was too big to fit through the passage, so I backed out and approached from the hallway, my pulse racing faster with every step. As I reached the doorway, I saw her. An elderly woman was sitting in an old wooden rocking chair, slowly rocking back and forth while staring out the window into the darkness. She had long, thin gray hair and wore a faded long skirt. I stood there completely frozen, unable to speak. The floor creaked under my foot. She stopped rocking instantly. I started apologizing, saying we didn't know anyone lived here and that we would leave right away. She ignored me and began rocking again. When I asked if she was okay, she stood up slowly and let out a low, guttural, humming sound that sent chills down my spine. Then she turned around. I only caught a terrifying glimpse of her ancient, deeply wrinkled face and eyes that seemed wrong before pure terror took over. I turned and ran downstairs screaming that we had to get out immediately. Sarah laughed, thinking I was pranking her. She went upstairs anyway. I heard her reach the doorway and gasp, "Oh my God!" Then start laughing. The chair was empty. She came back down, teasing me without mercy. We were walking toward the stairs when we both heard it again, the clear creaking of the rocking chair. Sarah froze. Then the low humming started once more, soft and eerie. Her face went pale. She walked back to the doorway and saw the old woman sitting there again, rocking gently and humming the same haunting melody. We didn't speak. We just ran for our lives, sprinting to the car and speeding away into the night. Sarah was shaking and asking questions the whole way home. I had no answers then, and I still don't have any now. A few years later, we drove past the location. The house had been completely demolished. Nothing remained, but the memory of that humming still haunts me on quiet nights. Story 2. I'm 34 years old now, but this memory still wakes me up some nights with my heart racing. It happened during my senior year of high school in a small, quiet town in rural Ohio. Back then, there was this place everyone called the Outpost, an old Cold War military community that had been completely abandoned since 1984. It wasn't just a couple of empty barracks. It was a full, self-contained village built for over 200 military families. There were rows of houses, a small school, a chapel, a community center, even a tiny grocery store. One day, the government simply shut it down and walked away, leaving everything exactly as it was. As kids, we grew up surrounded by the legends. Some said the military had performed secret mind control experiments in underground bunkers. Others whispered about satanic cults that used the chapel basement for dark rituals at night. My older brother once told me and my friends a story that scared us senseless. He claimed that he and his buddies had sneaked in one night and heard desperate moaning and screaming coming from beneath the chapel floor. He described a hidden trap door right next to the old altar. We believed every single word he said. For years, my tight group of friends, Marcus, Ryan, Tyler, and me, talked obsessively about exploring it. We made dramatic promises. The second we get our licenses, we're going in. But we never did, partly because the exact location was hard to pin down, and partly because deep down we were all terrified. It was still federal property, covered with no trespassing signs, and surrounded by dense woods near the old regional airport. Then one cool April night in 2011, Marcus showed up at my house looking unusually confident. I got the real location. Someone I trust went there last month and gave me exact directions. I laughed right in his face. I was so sure he was bluffing that I said, "All right, tough guy, let's go tonight." I thought we'd drive around for an hour, get lost, and come home laughing at ourselves. That decision almost cost us everything. We left around 11 p.m. The four of us crammed into my old dark blue Civic. The drive was tense. Marcus kept giving vague directions, changing his mind every few minutes. Tyler, who was always the most anxious of us, kept asking if we should turn back. After nearly 40 minutes of circling the area near the airport, we finally spotted it. A barely visible dirt road almost completely swallowed by thick, overgrown trees. A weathered, bullet-riddled, no trespassing sign hung crookedly from a post. My heart immediately started hammering. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to turn the car around. But the guys were pumped with adrenaline and years of built-up anticipation. "We've been talking about this since middle school," Marcus said. "Don't chicken out now." So I killed the headlights, shifted into neutral, and let the car roll silently down the dark path. The deeper we went, the heavier the air felt. We passed two old security gates. I had to get out both times and manually lift the heavy, rusted metal bars, my hands shaking from the cold and fear. After the second gate, the road became littered with the remnants of real human lives. Old rotting mattresses, children's bicycles twisted by time, dressers with drawers hanging open, faded clothes, broken toys, and even family pictures scattered like the residents had fled in sudden panic. When we finally entered the main village, the silence was suffocating. No crickets, no wind, no distant highway noise. Just dead, oppressive quiet. The houses stood in perfect rows like tombstones in a forgotten cemetery. Some had collapsed roofs, while others looked eerily preserved. We parked directly in front of the old white chapel. Its crooked steeple seemed to lean toward us threateningly. We started with the chapel. Our flashlights cut through thick dust. Graffiti covered almost every wall. I searched for the secret door my brother had described, but of course it wasn't there. Still, the basement stairs felt wrong. Cold air rose from below, carrying a faint, sour smell. We moved on to the houses. The fifth house we entered was almost perfectly intact. Family photos still hung on the walls. In the kitchen, dishes sat in the sink. A child's drawing remained stuck to the refrigerator. It felt deeply personal and violating. We were standing in the living room when we heard it, a slow, deliberate creak from upstairs. Footsteps. Marcus yelled, "Hello? Is someone there?" The sound stopped instantly. Tyler was panicking. I made the call to leave. As we headed for the door, Tyler pointed at the side window. 3 human silhouettes were moving along the neighboring house. We ran. The moment our car came into view, Tyler screamed. A tall woman in a filthy black dress had one leg already inside my car. She stared at us with sunken eyes, then ran into the chapel. Story 3. When I was 13 years old, my family moved into a nice, spacious house in a lively suburb in Pennsylvania. The neighborhood was full of kids my age. The house was bigger than our previous one, and everything felt perfect, except for our next-door neighbor, Mr. Harlan. He was a bitter, angry old man who seemed to hate everyone, especially children. If we even got close to the edge of his yard while playing football or riding bikes, he would bang violently on his window and scream at the top of his lungs for us to get away. This went on for months. He seemed to watch us constantly, as if he had nothing better to do than terrorize the neighborhood kids. Then one day the banging just stopped. Weeks passed with complete silence. We started joking that the old man must have finally died. One early morning, my best friend Ethan slept over. We woke up to flashing red and blue lights and sirens outside. We looked out the window and saw paramedics carrying a black zip body bag out of his house. The guilt hit me like a truck. We had joked about his death, and now it was real. I couldn't stop thinking that he had probably been dead inside that house for a long time before anyone found him. The house remained abandoned for years, still full of all his old belongings. From my bedroom window, I could see straight into his living room. It always gave me chills knowing he had died somewhere in there, surrounded by his things. One night when a group of friends were over, Ethan dared me to go inside the abandoned house. After they called me a coward and teased me for a long time, I finally agreed. I climbed through an unlocked side window. The smell inside was overwhelming, thick, sweet, and rotten. It made me gag instantly. I had to cover my nose with my shirt the entire time. Everything was frozen exactly as he had left it. A book with a bookmark still sat on his recliner. In the kitchen, a coffee mug and dusty pots remained on the table and stove. While I was waving at my friends through the window, I heard a loud, heavy bang from deep inside the house, like someone slamming their body into a wall. I got out as fast as possible. That same night, after we had all fallen asleep, Ethan woke me up. He said he kept hearing strange knocking sounds coming from the old man's house. At first I dismissed him, but then I heard the 2 loud, deliberate knocks myself. We all looked out my window into the darkness. There, in the doorway of Mr. Harlan's bedroom, stood a dark silhouette of a person. It slowly walked to the window and stopped, facing directly toward us. We all panicked. The figure lingered for what felt like forever before stepping back and melting into the darkness. We stayed up the entire rest of the night, taking turns watching that window in fear. A year later, Mr. Harlan's son finally appeared. He cleared out the entire house and sold it quickly. He told my dad he had a terrible relationship with his father and had avoided dealing with the house for many years. To this day, that silhouette watching us from the window remains the most terrifying thing I have ever seen with my own eyes. I'm grateful I wasn't alone. 5 of us witnessed the exact same thing. None of us have ever been able to explain what we saw that night.